I didn't see you up there. This is Kurt Wallner. In today's chapter, we're going to color the East Room drawing. But first we have to decide a very important thing, which is, what color is the East Room really?
Working from photos for such a long time has made me realize that photos taken with different cameras and different film stocks and different capturing systems and different lighting conditions yield different colored photographs. And when looking at photographs of the East Room, which is essentially a white or off-white room, collecting photographs yields a surprising array of colors. This one is too dark, and it also doesn't show that the walls are off-white, while the ceiling is a more neutral white. This one from the early 60s is too white, while this shot from the 70s is faded to pinkish and is not to be trusted. This one is dark and more theatrical than what I'm looking for. This is getting there, but this one has it all. Good and bright, and you can see how the ceiling is a little more bluish. These are the colors I'll be shooting for. So let's enter the grand audience hall and get this thing colored in. You may recall in some of our other chapters that I pencil from the back to the front so that I draw in everything that's in the back, and then things that are in front, the back can get erased and the front can take over. Inking is exactly the opposite. You ink things that are in the front so that you can ink things that are supposed to be behind them later. Make sure that the things that are behind slam up against the things that you have already drawn that are in the front. Sounds crazy, but that's the way I do it. Now I have to ink in the Steinway piano. This great big monstrosity. Kind of worried about how I'm going to fill all the colors in and get all of this detail done. And now it's time to begin with the chairs. There are little tiny ones, and then there are larger ones that extend into the foreground. So I draw a model sheet. I use that as a guide for what any of the chairs look like at any size or any angle. And as the man once said, you gotta start somewhere. Just pick a chair in the front row and get on with it. In trying to draw the chairs accurately with using only the wireframe instructions of the pencil, I'm having to go very carefully and slowly, and it's just amazing how long this takes. Okay, so now we're ready to color in the chairs, and my rationale here is to keep things as simple as possible. So I've got a gold colored pen, and then I want to shade everything with one color of gray, in this case oyster gray. Just layer on the oyster gray, and you will eventually get the dark inky depths of the chairs and the shadows and them being farther away from the chairs that are in the foreground. The East Room has a very elaborate parquet flooring in there called Victorian flooring, And in looking at the pictures online that I've collected, you discover that photographers don't take pictures of the floor. Darn it. I've had to look at pictures shot willy-nilly and piece it together. And I've discovered that there is a square pattern. Draw that pattern of where those squares go on the floor. I put that in underneath all of the chairs. We flip the render paper over and trace that pattern of squares on the back side of the render paper. And then we draw the parquet floor pattern backwards on the back of the render paper. Eventually I ink it in on the back, and then we flip the render paper over and ink it on the front. I do this so that there's only two generations. One generation of inking on the back, and then I just trace it and it's exactly the same thing. Once I get the nice honey gold color of the floor and the reflections and all that stuff in, the pattern of the floor, parquet flooring, seems to matter a lot less, but I like to get all of this kind of stuff in. So now comes the inking of the walls, and in order to get all of that ice cream, whipped cream filigree in, I have to use the thinnest pens possible. And this is especially critical in drawing these very, very, very tiny vertical lines on the pilasters. Oh man, they cause so much stress in my hand that my hand begins to sweat. And so I have to use a piece of paper to shield the render paper from my sweating palm. It's just nerve-wracking. So to get that off-white color, I know that I'm going to be wanting to use one of my beige pens. And as everybody who uses markers knows, markers become more valuable as they dry out because they can achieve color gradations that new fresh pens can't achieve. So I number mine, and I've done samples of the different numbers, the dried out ones that I have and the new ones, and I've decided to go with number 4. And filling that in is a very pleasant task, and I enjoy putting in all the shading and things like that go along with it. Because the pen is an older one and it's dried out a little bit, it is inconsistent in terms of how it lays its ink down and how much pressure you put on it and how many layers you give it and all the rest of this kind of stuff. And it gives all of the walls a very hand-done kind of look that is impossible to get otherwise. The drawing has turned out really nicely. I like all the chairs, of course. Everybody, the chairs are definitely a wow factor kind of thing. I like the chandeliers and I like all of the architecture and stuff like that, and it turned out nice. The next chapter of our series is going to undertake a very large top-down overview of the entire White House. We're going to start that. It's a very big project, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. If you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe to the channel if you would. Thank you for your attention. Until next time, bye-bye.